Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori if you're new, and I am so stinking happy that you're here. How excited are we for book haul videos? Because like, who doesn't love a good book haul video? So I have 20 books to share with you in this video. I hope that you're as excited as I am. What I'm gonna do is break them out by genre, and I'll try to leave like those chapters down below so that if you want to skip to a certain genre, you can do that. If you're new to my channel, please feel free to like this video and subscribe. All of my socials are linked down below. I do bullet journal content, I do book content. We also have a monthly live reading sprint that we do together at the end of the month as our last call reading sprints. So without further ado, grab your coffee, grab your snack. If you haven't had water today, drink some water, and let's talk about some books. Talk about that I'm so excited to get to because I feel like it's going to be right up my alley is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This copy actually has a couple other stories in here as well. It also has the Canterville Ghost. It is a book that debates morality. We have our main character who is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Dorian Gray, and he has this beautiful self-portrait. Now, Dorian Gray isn't the most moral being, and so as his soul kind of withers and darkens and corrupts, I guess you could say, the portrait that he has begins to reflect the state of his soul. So it has that supernatural element to it. So that is The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I love this copy. I also got it for $3, so like how can you be mad at that? I'm not sure if this is truly considered a classic, but I consider it a classic. It has to be, right? It is Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This cover, it was published by Penguin Books in 1985, so that's where this cover comes from, and they were doing something right. I don't know too much about this book, besides the fact that it is a epic love story of sorts, and it is extremely tragic. It's very emotional and heartbreaking. Daughter of Fortune by Isabel Allende. I read Violeta by Isabel Allende at the beginning of this year and was so captivated by her writing. It follows one woman throughout her entire life. Very dramatic, very emotional, emotionally entrancing. Like, you will be so invested in her characters. It is just so beautiful. So I'm very excited for this book as well.
I'm gonna stop saying that because I'm excited for all of these books. I apologize.
Okay, we're going to switch to my dark academia genre section. These are both, one is a thriller and one is a fantasy. So I'll start with Legendborn. I am appalled that I haven't read this yet. It is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I don't think that one person in the entire world has had a negative thing to say about this book. Also, such a stunning cover. All I really know about this book, besides people absolutely love it, is that it is a King Arthur retelling and it is dark academia. So that's what I'm gonna leave you with, because
how stunning is that?
And the second dark academia book that I have is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. It takes place at a famous elite private school in Vermont. I feel like so many dark academia books take place in New England, which is stunning because that's where I grew up. And it just like brings me back to those times, and autumn in New England and winter when everything is just buried in snow and it looks so magical. And then not to mention these like castle-y, like brick schools. That is perfection, okay? Perfection. The founder of this school, if I'm not mistaken, his wife and daughter were kidnapped, and there was a mocking riddle that was left to try to solve where they went and what happened. No one was able to solve it, so it becomes a cold case. But many years later, a true crime aficionado, Stevie Bell, is set to begin her first year at the academy, and she's determined to solve the cold case. And then we're gonna get into what I'm kind of just classifying as like my true fantasy section. The Stuology. I love V. Schwab with my entire heart and soul. I've read kind of a mix of her books. I've only read two actually so far, The Near Witch and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I'm sure you're sick of me talking about at this point. So I'm working my way through her backlist, and I bought the duology Vicious and Vengeful. I'm starting with this one because this, to my understanding, might kind of fit into the dark academia vibes as well, because it is about two college roommates who are brilliant, arrogant, lonely boys. We love some emo boys. Have really bonded because, like, to me it sounds like they both think that they're like better and smarter than everyone, so they're like content being lonely because they don't want to share their energy with people that they think are below them. They're just so smart for everyone else. So not the most likable characters, and they're in their senior year of university. They have a shared research interest in adrenaline, near-death experiences, and seemingly supernatural events. And they discover that under the right conditions, someone could develop extraordinary abilities. But when their thesis moves from academic to the experimental, things go horribly wrong. It does take place in a university. I'm just not positive that it classifies as like a true dark academia. V.E. Schwab is an absolute mastermind genius with her writing. I love the way that she plans things, and I love the way that she ends her books. So I'm excited to jump into a duology because I've only read standalone books from her. So this is going to be a fantastic time. Next is a book as well that is absolutely appalling that I haven't read it yet. That is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This I feel like is on the same tier as the An Ember in the Ashes series in terms of the absolute devastation. It's so emotional. It's brutal. It's a brutal book about war and battle. My understanding is there's a little bit of history tied into this. I love that writing structure when it's based off of maybe a more real world event, but there's this fantastical element to it, and any book that can make me feel something, like, hello.
Me and my dad's soul need that in my life.
The next book that I'm going to touch on, I have tried reading this book twice and have failed miserably both times, but I am determined because I've heard that this series is worth it, and I loved Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. So the next book is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. This is a book that compares to the Dark Brotherhood questline in Skyrim. We basically follow an assassin who gets orphaned. Her name is Mia. Alone and friendless, she wanders into a city built from the bones of a dead god. She has a lot of enemies because her family was killed off by the high-ups in society, the Senate, I believe it was called. And so Mia is apprenticed by the deadliest flock of assassins in the entire Republic called the Red Church. It kind of has the same vibes as Empire of the Vampire, where she's the underdog. She's going to this organization, if you will, that's training her to become a skilled assassin, a skilled killer, which was also similar with Gabe's journey in Empire of the Vampire. And his worlds are just very dark and gory. Jay Kristoff is also not afraid to rough up our main characters and have very dramatic storylines, which I'm here for. What's really just getting me about this book is the formatting of it, because not only is the font teeny tiny, but there are footers or footnotes throughout this entire book. This is all a footnote. Like, why would you do that? Anyways, I'm gonna get over it. I've heard that the audiobook for this is much better because it flows much better than trying to read it physically. I will return to this book. I'm going to conquer this book. This book is not going to conquer me. The last book in my true like fantasy category is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is one of my not most anticipated. This is one of my 22 books for 2022 that I still have to get to. Going into it, I actually don't know too much about it, but again, this is a book that I feel so many people have absolutely fallen in love with. It's a core book for many a folk who read. From what I understand, this is also about a war orphan. Guys, I don't know what it is. In April and May, all I was picking up and all I was getting were books that were monster versus monster hunter type tropes, and now I feel like June and July are going to be war orphan type like characters. I don't know what is going on with me. Anyways, Our main character is Laszlo Strange. He's a war orphan and a junior librarian. Since he was 5 years old, he's always been obsessed with the mythic lost city of Weep, but it would take someone bolder than he is to cross half the world in search of it. Well, he gets his opportunity to search for the mythic lost city of Weep. It really just sounds beautiful. And I've heard that the writing is very lyrical, very flowery, a lot of beautiful quotes. So once I'm in the fantasy mood again, I cannot wait to pick this up. Okay, y'all, we are on our final section, which is the biggest section of books. And these are most of them are fantasy romance, but there are a couple that are just plain romance. So the first that I'll talk about are the 2 romance books, and that is the Ravenhood series. So I got Flock, and then the second book in the series, which is Exodus. I buddy read Flock with Sarah from Sarah Lorraine Reads and was hooked, to say the least. So this series, we follow our main character who has to re-involve herself with her estranged father, who is not the best person, because she needs to work at his factory for a year to fulfill her obligation and get her inheritance to help her mother, who is sick and kind of struggling right now. So she goes to this town, she's working for her dad to fulfill her commitment and get her inheritance, and she stumbles upon this group of boys that is just such a journey. Okay, we're just gonna leave it at that. I feel like the less you know going into these books, the better it's gonna be. I went into these books knowing very little, only that it was kind of a reverse harem type trope. I will say that this is maybe a beginner's dip your toe into the reverse harem trope, because the first book, it wasn't super prominent. I'll just say that. And I wanted to throw that out there because I was a little bit disappointed, because I was like, this isn't really a reverse harem type thing. But it is so wonderful. I'm so invested in these. It was such a fast, fun read that I'm already on Exodus book 2, and this book is a lot more emotional and like crazy and new characters. It's just really fun. So I definitely recommend, if you're looking for more of like an emo dark romance for the summer, I fully recommend the Ravenhood series by Kate Stewart. Just know that I'll say this once so that I don't have to say it after every book. I'm so excited for all of these fantasy romance books. The next one that I have is King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. It shouldn't be a surprise. I love Scarlett St. Clair so much. I loved her A Touch of Darkness series and her Game of series, which is the Persephone and Hades retellings. This one is a smutty, dark vampire fantasy romance. It has the forced marriage trope with Isolde as our main character, and she has to marry and promise herself to this vampire king, Adrian Alexander Vasiliev, and it is her mission to kill him. Perfect. Next I have House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. I recently read Small Favors by Erin A. Craig, and I really enjoy her writing style. This one is much more of a true fantasy romance, where the other one was more of a YA horror romance. So I'm very intrigued. This seems like such a good summer fantasy romance. This book takes place in a manor by the sea. 12 sisters are cursed, get ready to be swept away. And it is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling. Basically, they all live a really sheltered life at Highmore Manor. There was once 12, but loneliness fills the grand halls now that 4 of the girls' lives have been cut short, each death more tragic than the last. Her sisters start to sneak out to go to glittering balls, dancing until dawn in silk gowns and shimmering slippers, but Annalee isn't sure whether to try to stop them or to join their forbidden trysts, because who or what are they really dancing with? When Annalee's involvement with a mysterious stranger who has secrets of his own intensifies, it's a race to unravel the darkness that has fallen over her family before it claims her next. I feel like Erin A. Craig loves to have a like creepy factor in her books, and this seems to be carrying on with that. This next book is one that I feel like has such a creative plot that I'm worried my expectations are too high, and that is A Forgery of Roses by Jessica S. Olsen. This book kind of gives off the Picture of Dorian Gray vibes, if I'm honest, like now that I'm thinking about it. So we follow our main character, Mira, who has this power to paint people and it will alter their real life bodies, which is a talent or a power that she's really trying to keep hidden because her parents recently died and it's only her and her sister left in the world, and she's worried that people are going to use and view her little sister as a weakness and blackmail or try to harm her little sister to be able to have use or take advantage of her power. But one frigid night, the governor's wife discovers the truth about Mira and her power, threatens to expose her if Mira doesn't do a portrait. But this is not any particular portrait to change her body. The governor's wife wants a portrait that will resurrect her dead son. I read that and I was like, immediately yes. Say less. I'm getting this book. Then we have The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. 2 centuries ago, there were 3 sisters that were killed for being accused of witchcraft. Stones were tied to their ankles and they were drowned. But for a brief time each summer, the 3 sisters have the ability to come back and possess 3 girls in the town for the summer so that they may seek their revenge, luring boys into Sparrow's Harbor and pulling them under. Like many locals, 17-year-old Penny Talbot has accepted the fate of the town, but this year, on the eve of the sisters' return, a boy named Beau Carter arrives, unaware of the danger he has just stumbled into. Mistrust and lies spread quickly through the salty, rain-soaked streets. The townspeople will turn against one another, Penny and Beau will suspect each other of hiding secrets, and the death will come swiftly to those who cannot resist the call of the sisters. So it's not only a cursed town trope, but this is giving Hocus Pocus vibes. Like, these sisters call to young girls and boys to, like, kill them, to suck the life out of them. It's not sucking the life out of them, it's drowning them, but like, you know what I mean, it's along the same lines. We are down to our last 3 books, my friends. We have A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. I hope that I said that correctly. If Prince Ren can get someone to fall in love with him, it will break his curse. And his curse is to repeat the autumn of his 18th year over and over again, and he turns into a vicious beast. He destroyed his castle, his family, and every last shred of hope. But we have our female main character, Harper, whose father died, her mother is dying, her brother is constantly underestimating her because of her cerebral palsy. When she tries to save a stranger on the streets of Washington, D.C., she's pulled into a magical world. When I first read this and I heard of Prince Ren, I immediately thought of Tamlin, and I was like,
ew, no.
But from what I've heard of these books, they're really fun. It is a trilogy, I believe. Next we have To Kill a Kingdom, which is about sirens. So immediately I was like, I'm reading this for the summer, 100%. So Princess Lyra is our main character, and she is siren royalty. She's a siren little princess, and she's the most lethal of them all. But the Sea Queen does not like how powerful she is, so she turns Lyra into the things that sirens hate the most, which is a human. Robbed of her song, Lyra has until the winter solstice to deliver Prince Elian? Probably Prince Elian, right? Prince Elian's heart to the Sea Queen or remain a human forever. So this is kind of like a Little Mermaid retelling, except she doesn't want to become a human. To be able to fully love her prince, she has to kill a prince in order to get back to being a siren. Will I be reading this on the beach this summer? Absolutely. And the last book I have to talk about, my friends, is The Bridge Kingdom. I've heard that this is, well, also, can we just, this cover, and this is by Danielle L. Jensen. This is an enemies to lovers fantasy romance. Lara is our main character, and she has been kind of trained from childhood to be this killer, badass spy queen. And so she's promised to the Bridge Kingdom, which controls all the trade and travel between the lands, allowing its ruler to enrich himself and deprive his enemies, including Lara's homeland. She's sent to that kingdom as a bride, marries him, but her goal is to undermine him, kill him, take over the Bridge Kingdom to help and save her people. But as she infiltrates her new home, a lush paradise surrounded by tempest seas, and comes to know her new husband, Aaron, Laura begins to question where the true evil resides. So it's a question of, she's been trained her whole life to complete this mission, but as she is in the thick of it, she's realizing maybe I didn't get all the facts. But that is it, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Leave a comment down below with a book that you impulse bought most recently. I will catch you in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, friends.